It's another Monday, and thanks so much for your time with us on News at 10. We're live on 3FM 92.7. We're also live on TV3. Thanks so much for joining us. Now to the major news highlights making the day. An Accra High Court, presided over by Justice Anthony Yeboah, says the Electoral Commission for the last 10 years has breached the fundamental human right of Ghanaians living abroad for failing to give them the opportunity to vote. Condemning the failure of the EC to implement the act, Justice Anthony Yeboah ordered the Commission to implement within 12 months the representation of the People's Amendment Act. Still staying at the court, human rights lawyer Francis Xavier Soso has sued General Legal Counsel at the Human Rights Court seeking to enforce his fundamental human rights for fair trial. He has also filed an interlocutory injunction restraining the General Legal Counsel from taking any further disciplinary proceedings in respect of the pending determination of his human rights action. Police in Ashanti region arrest 3 young men who allegedly gang raped a young lady. The police is also appealing to the public to help in arresting the rest of the culprits. "57 former Liberian refugees have besieged the United Nations High Commission for Refugees in Accra, demanding that they be resettled in first world countries. The angry Liberians who spent 32 days at the premises of the UNHCR are demanding that they be sent to Canada, America, or the United Kingdom. Finally, South Africa's ruling African National Congress has selected Cyril Ramaphosa to succeed President Jacob Zuma as the party's leader. Ramaphosa defeated Dlamini Zuma by 2,440 votes to 2,261. The deputy president defeated former cabinet minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Zuma's ex-wife, after a marathon voting process. Ramaphosa is in strong position to become president in 2019. Thanks so much for your time with us. Now to our first story. Police in Ashanti region have arrested 3 young men who allegedly gang raped a young lady. The police is also appealing to the public to help in arresting the rest of the culprits.
The about 5 minutes video show a teenage girl pinned by one of her abusers while his accomplices take turns to perform sexual acts on her. The teenager is seen struggling with the young men who take turns to engage in sexual activity with her. The girl at a point was helpless and had to bite one of them to free herself, but was unsuccessful. The boys could be heard speaking Twi with their faces showing, with some of them urging others not to fear in engaging in the act. The Ghana Police Service is calling for assistance from the public with any information to arrest the perpetrators.
On this issue, Adolf Bequin is a clinical psychologist, and he just joined me on the phone lines. Adolf, good evening. I'm grateful for your time with us. Let's start from here. For the victim, what crucially is needed for her at this time?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your cherished viewers. I think the victim has gone through an ordeal, and the intervention for her is to get her to some counselor to help her deal with the invasion of her privacy.
I see. So what exactly is needed to help her deal with what she's gone through?
Well, it is an ordeal that, as we speak, her body has been defiled. And now she may feel disgusted. It's a very disgusting feeling. And so we need to help her feel safe first in her body and then in her mind. Am I responsible for what has happened? What did I do wrong? The shame, the video having gone viral, the shame, the guilt, all that has to be managed with this young lady.
I see. So for you, she can be healed through this process?
Absolutely, she can be healed. It's not going to be a very easy journey to start to walk, but she can be healed. She can be healed. She can recover from the trauma of sexual assault, from the defilement that it may show her body dirty, and we need to help her sanitize her first psychologically by what we do body, by helping her go through medical attention, screening to disabuse her mind of whatever infections that may be possible. We have to clear her of that. Then we can begin the talk therapy with her.
Bequin, tell me, what is in the minds of rapists?
Well, it's just an exercise of power. Just an exercise of power.
Just that?
I really think that he has a right to a woman's body, and a woman has no opportunity to resist, has no power to resist. And therefore, a sense of entitlement. I feel sexually aroused, and I think that there is a woman I can overpower. I go in there and do that, and she has no right to say no. If she says no, I'm going to impose myself on her. So it's purely an exercise of power and nothing else. Are you ruling out what perhaps social media, traditional media, our musical videos, the portrayal of these women, the fact that you find some of these pornographic pictures all around, are you ruling out all that perhaps these rapists are not being encouraged by that? Well, you may see all sorts of things. You can, growing up as a boy, you can see the nakedness of your mom. Why don't you pounce on your mother and rape her? You can see the nakedness of your mother, but nothing, will cross your mind to do such an abominable act. It's simply because you think that your mom has control over you. But where you think in the public setting, you think that for this girl, I have control over, for this lady, I have control over, then I will do whatever I want to do with her. Remember that if from what you just read, the lady initially resisted, but she was overpowered. She became helpless. So they overpowered her. They exercised brute force on her and had a go at her. And by the way, what is making this so sensational? Haven't we heard this all over, this subculture of rape? In our local parlance in the side, we talk about boys having gala, and many girls have suffered in silence. So it's just a very incipient subculture, which is now being elevated because of social media. But it's been the silent suffering of majority of girls.
The boys involved, we've told that 3 been picked up, 4 more are on the run. What do they need? Punishment or rehabilitation, treatment, I mean?
Well, I think they need both. They need to be told that what they have done is wrong, but we are not there to just mess them up. They have to go through due process. They must be brought under the business. They have perpetrated a heinous crime, but they are minors, so they cannot be taken through the same process, punitive measures as adults. For instance, if they are found guilty and convicted, I don't think it is advisable for them to be thrown into adult prison. They have to do some diversion some diversion for them, counseling, rehabilitation, but they must be held accountable for everything they have done to this poor lady.
I'm grateful for your time with us, a clinical psychologist, Ewuku Bequin, talking to me on this issue. We're staying longer on this one because a member of the Coalition Against Sexual Abuse, Amazing Grace Danso, is attributing the incident to the perception that men can have access to women anytime they want. She wants needed sanctioned meted out to the young boys to serve as a deterrent to others.
Underlying factors are quite complex to unpack, but many of us believe that there's this idea supported by the patriarchal society that a man has access to the woman's body, whether she likes it or not, because some way, somehow, she's supposed to be subservient to him. So it's not really surprising that you have young people exhibiting such atrocities or such heinous attitudes, because there's a fundamental belief, or should I say perception, that you can do whatever you want to a woman's body and get away with it. Fortunately, unfortunately, this was on record, and we do have substantial evidence to go after these perpetrators. So it does make us worried about the numerous cases that are happening all across the country that don't get reported. So making an example of these perpetrators is a very high priority.
This is News at 10 on TV3. We're also live on 3FM 92.7. Let's step on the brakes. When we're back, there's more. Stay with us. Thanks so much for your time. Welcome back to News at 10 live on TV3. We're also live on 3FM 92.7. An Accra High Court presided over by Justice Anthony Yeboah says the Electoral Commission for the last 10 years has breached the fundamental human right of Ghanaians living abroad for failing to give them the opportunity to vote. Condemning the failure of the EC to implement the act, Justice Anthony Yeboah ordered the Commission to implement within 12 months the representation of the People's Amendment Act, otherwise known as RUPAL.
The delay of the implementation of the Representative of the People's Amendment Act for 10 years by the Electoral Commission was described by the court as unreasonable and discriminatory. The court said the Electoral Commission failed to justify reasons for their inability to implement Act 699, which mandates them to organize elections for Ghanaians living abroad. Justice Anthony Yeboah stressed the EC did not abide by constitutional provisions which states all persons shall be equal before the law, indicating that the Commission is differently treating some Ghanaians. The court said the Commission's argument that some Ghanaians vote in emissions and embassies is not reasonable, but agreed with the EC for stating funds and amendments of portions of the laws before the act could be implemented. Justice Yeboah also stated the Commission has not been desirous to seek assistance from stakeholders and other institutions, but trying to protect their independence, which he described as not being wise. The court said the EC is under the duty to comply with Act 669, but the Commission has unreasonably failed to justify delay of the implementation. The court agreed with the Electoral Commission that the court cannot force the EC to act in a particular way, form or manner. However, the court can order the EC to comply with the laws which bind them. The court gave the Electoral Commission 30 days after the expiration of the 12-month ultimatum to formally write to explain reasons it will fail to implement the act. First plaintiff and chairman of the Progressive Alliance Movement, Dr. Kofi Boateng, and counsel for the plaintiffs, Samson Ladi Anyinene, expressed their satisfaction with the judgment.
Since Act 699 was passed in 2006, we've had 3 general elections and Ghanaians living abroad have not voted. And now, as the judge said, come 2020, it is certain that Ghanaians living abroad will vote.
What we are concerned about is what the law says ought to be, which has not been. And we have come to the court and urged the court on the points of law. The Electoral Commission contended that the right to be registered to vote and to vote from abroad is not one that can immediately, be done for them. Even though it claims that it had been doing so assiduously, the evidence shows that it has simply been sleeping on the job.
The Electoral Commission at the last hearing prayed the court to allow it proof it was in the process of implementing the law but failed to provide enough evidence. The EC argued that it had plans to implement the law and should not be compelled to do so.
In other news, 57 former Liberian refugees have besieged the United Nations High Commission for Refugees in Accra, demanding that they be resettled in first world countries. The angry Liberians, who spent 32 days at the premises of the UNHCR, are demanding that they be sent to Canada, the United States, or the United Kingdom.
The refugee status of Liberians across the world was revoked on June 30, 2012, after the United Nations declared Liberia relatively peaceful. Two options were available for refugees: to voluntarily return to their native country or remain in the country where they sought refugee status. About 8,000 of the remaining Liberian refugees in Ghana at the time opted to return home and were duly assisted. 3,500 opted to stay in Ghana, whilst the remaining 2,500 declined the two options. About 1,000 of the 2,500 then applied to the Ghana Refugee Board for an extension of their refugee status, but only 250 were granted. An appeal to the Interior Minister, according to the rules, had an additional 100 applications granted. Per the foregoing, the remaining 2,150 Liberians have no status and had up to January 15, 2018 to leave the country or be counted as illegal immigrants. Perhaps desperate to avoid whatever action awaits them as the date draws near, these former Liberian refugees threw themselves on the UNHCR demanding their transfer to a first world country. They claimed the UNHCR had an obligation.
Time for our own durable solution. They don't want to give it to us. That was made for me to move from the place where they finish breaking it down. That was made I come on the side for UNHCR to give my durable solution.
And we asked them several made them 12 different occasions. And then they told us that go and come. We are tired with it, and now we don't have houses on the camp. And they know very well that Liberian refugees who took exemption that fought on the resettlement, which of course my category.
Of course, I know that my status have come to an end, but in another category of my situation, I automatically fall in the area of being resettled because I'm considering myself to be a stateless refugee.
You cannot have me in the country for more than 27 years. Profile me through all the years, and at the end of the day, you tell me I should have no benefits. This is not accepted under international law, but even the United Nations Convention.
But these claims were denied by the UNHCR. Showing documents to support his claims, an Associate Protection Officer, Edmond Quarte, insisted the former refugees do not have any rights.
350 people who maintain their refugee status. Why? Because the government of Ghana has decided that they should keep their refugee status. Now, all the people that were rejected from the day they were given their letter ceased to be refugees. Now, once that decision is made by the government of Ghana, you cease to be a refugee to UNHCR too.
Currently, the 57 former refugees have been taken to the Cantonment Police Station, awaiting to be conveyed back to Budumburam camp, where their permit is due to expire on January 15 next year.
Liberian refugees not ready to stay in Ghana. In other news, lack of proper social infrastructure has forced English and Arabic junior high school pupils of Makango in the Salaga district of the northern region to share class with bats as their teachers contend with the weather, insects and reptiles under a tree which serves as a common room. The situation has, over the years, affected the performance of the junior high school pupils in the community. Meanwhile, the Regional Director of Education has reacted to the story, denying knowledge of the situation.
But the Regional Director of Education in the Northern Region says he is not aware about the situation.
You are just drawing my attention to this situation. And I will have to, first of all, contact the District Director of Education for East Gonja. And for the teachers sitting under a tree at their common room. In fact, I will not be surprised because some of these teachers deliberately decide to sit under trees. There could have been a staff common room. I have not been there, but there could have been a staff common room in the school. But they hate to sit inside the staff common room. They prefer sitting under trees. If the bats are there, the head teacher is responsible
for killing the bats. The head teacher is responsible for killing the bats.
Available. They could invite people, the pesticide control. They could use those things to flush out the bats. I mean, how much would that cost?
Although the district director alluded having knowledge about the situation, but attempted an explanation.
Yes, I'm much aware about the situation at Makango English, Arabic, and Tribal schools. A lot has been done about it, and we have a roadmap to fixing those challenges. But as you are aware, what happened last night was actually highly unfortunate. We have been there as an office to see to how best we can fight the bats. The first, we fumigated the place. Secondly, we are using fishing nets. And if the fishing net fails, then there's another strategy that we need to use.
The Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors has donated 50,000 cedis to victims of the Atomic Junction gas filling station explosion. Some of the victims who are at the 37 military hospital need 600 cedis a day to dress their wounds. Brigadier General Yeboah Ejapong was speaking in an interview with TV3 after the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Senor Hossi, donated 50,000 cedis to the plastic surgery and burns unit of the hospital. The donation was to help alleviate the plight of victims of the Atomic Junction accident. The head of plastic surgery and burns unit, Kwesi Nsafo, said 6 of the victims of the Atomic Junction gas explosion are still on admission and they need 600 Ghana cedis daily to dress their wounds. The Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Senor Hossi, said the nation has failed to adhere to safety standards. And that's how we're wrapping up the show for tonight. If you listen to us on 3FM 92.7, we're grateful. If you watched us on TV3, thanks so much for your time. The show was put together by Isaac Ameko, studio director Richard Bruce Lampton. My name is Bright, and have a good evening and stay right here on TV3.